Short books can be some of the most reliable reading experiences because they focus your attention and then leave you with a clean aftertaste. This guide is built around one simple axis. Length is capped at about 250 pages. Impact is not capped at all. The goal is not to race through a checklist. The goal is to pick a short book that matches your mood, finish it, and feel like you actually completed something meaningful. I am using 8 proven standalones that are widely available in print, ebook, and audio in the US. They cover satire, existential fiction, American realism, speculative cautionary fiction, surreal classic literature, literary adventure, modern dark fairy tale, and gentle philosophical fable. You will hear these titles in flavor buckets, not as a ranking. If you only remember one rule, remember this: choose the short book that fits your current energy level, not the one you feel you are supposed to read. In the next sections, we will move from why short books work to which short book to pick, and then how to take a simple next step without turning it into a massive project. One more practical definition. When I say short, I mean you can usually finish in 3 to 5 reading sessions, even if you only read 20 minutes at a time. That matters because the brain likes closure. Finishing a whole book builds confidence faster than starting a longer one and drifting away. If you already read a lot, short books still help because they fit between bigger projects and keep your attention sharp. A short book wins when you want momentum without losing depth. Many readers stop not because they dislike stories, but because long books demand long stretches of uninterrupted attention. A tighter page count lowers the entry cost. It also forces the author to make every scene and every paragraph pull its weight. That creates a specific kind of satisfaction. You finish, you remember the shape of the whole work, and you can talk about it clearly. Short classics also teach you what you like. If you enjoy the clean moral satire of Animal Farm, you may discover you like political allegory in general. If you enjoy the stripped, sunlit style of The Stranger, you may realize you like philosophical fiction that is cool and precise. If you enjoy the pure forward motion of Fahrenheit 451, you may want more speculative fiction that reads like a warning label. Short does not mean simple. Short often means concentrated. To make this easy, I use flavor buckets. Each bucket is a reading experience, not a school assignment. Pick one bucket that matches your mood today, then pick one title inside it. That is enough. Short books also invite rereading. A second pass is not a huge commitment, and it often changes your understanding more than starting a brand new title. If you want to build taste, that reread effect is valuable because you can compare how you felt the first time with how you feel now. In other words, short books are not a shortcut. They are a training ground for attention and judgment. Before we get to individual books, choose your lane. There are 3 practical questions that reduce almost all decision paralysis. First, do you want something realistic or something slightly unreal? Realistic usually means social pressure, work, family, and the texture of daily life. Unreal can mean speculative futures, dream logic, or fairy tale atmosphere. Second, do you want comfort or friction? Comfort can still be serious, but it feels gentle in the moment. Friction means the book is designed to unsettle you a little, in a thoughtful way. Third, do you want clarity or mystery? Clarity means the author is direct and the prose is clean. Mystery means you will sit with ambiguity and let the meaning form slowly. This list gives you a clean choice at every step. The Little Prince is comfort with clarity. Coraline is unreal comfort with a shadow. The Metamorphosis is unreal friction with mystery. Of Mice and Men is realistic friction with clarity. One more practical note. If you are reading to rebuild the habit, audio can be a gentle bridge, but print helps you feel the finish line. Either way, the best short book is the one you actually complete. Animal Farm, George Orwell. A short political satire set on a farm, told in clear fable-like language, where power shifts behind simple slogans and everyday routines. Because it reads like a story you could repeat aloud. It is one of the easiest classics to start and one of the hardest to forget. The book works even if you have never read another classic. The sentences are plain, the scenes move quickly, the meaning builds by repetition. What makes it high impact is how it shows corruption as a process, not a single moment. You watch rules change, you watch language get smaller, you watch memory get edited. That is why this is such a useful short read if you want a book that sparks conversation without demanding a lot of time. Reading tip: do not rush. Pause after each chapter and summarize what changed in one sentence. That turns the fable structure into a clear map in your head. If you tend to feel intimidated by older books, Animal Farm is a safe entry because it is short, direct, and emotionally controlled. It is also a good choice if you like nonfiction about politics and media, but want something you can finish in 1 or 2 sittings. The Stranger, Albert Camus. a slim philosophical novel with a cool sunlit tone set in everyday city spaces, where the focus is on perception, routine, and emotional distance. This is a good short book when you want something sharp and controlled rather than warm. The prose is famously clean. It can feel almost flat at first, and that is part of the design. You are watching how meaning can be absent, and how society reacts when it expects certain feelings. High impact here comes from restraint. The book does not plead with you. It simply places ideas in front of you and lets you sit with them. If you have ever finished a book and felt unsettled in a quiet way, this is that kind of reading. Reading tip: take note of physical details like heat, light, and sound. Camus uses the environment as a pressure system. That is how the tone builds without long explanation. This is also a useful gateway into modern classics because it is short, widely discussed, and easy to reread later with a different mindset. If you want comfort, choose a different bucket. If you want clarity with a serious edge, this one delivers. Of Mice and Men, John Steinbeck. A compact piece of American realism with plain visual prose, set during hard economic times where the reading experience is direct, human, and emotionally tense. This is a short book that feels like a complete film in your head because Steinbeck writes scenes with clear staging and strong sensory detail. It is also one of the best examples of how a short work can carry serious emotional weight without long backstory. The power here is in the social environment. You feel how limited options shape choices, and how dreams can be both a comfort and a trap. If you want a short book that is realistic and makes you care quickly, this is a strong pick. Reading tip: treat it like a play. Notice how many scenes are built around small gestures, pauses, and what people avoid saying. That is where the tension lives. This book is often assigned in school, but it reads very differently when you choose it yourself. It becomes less about homework and more about empathy. If you are building a reading habit, it is also a good test for whether you enjoy character-focused literature that is simple on the surface and heavy underneath. Fahrenheit 451, Ray Bradbury. A fast, cautionary science fiction read with a crisp, urgent tone, set in a near-future society, where the experience is more chase and warning than slow world-building. This is the short book to choose when you want momentum. The chapters move like a sequence of alarms. It is also one of the easiest classics to recommend to people who think they do not like classics because it reads with modern speed. The impact comes from ideas that still feel current. Attention becomes a resource. Entertainment becomes noise. Reading becomes an act that changes how you think, not just what you know. If you enjoy stories about technology and culture, this book gives you a clear starting point without a heavy series commitment. Reading tip: let the imagery wash over you. Bradbury writes with metaphor and heat. If you try to decode every line immediately, it can feel dense. If you follow the movement, the meaning lands cleanly. This is also a useful short book for returning readers because it is short enough to finish quickly, but strong enough to remind you why fiction can feel urgent. When you finish, you will likely want to talk about it, and that is a good sign for habit building. The Metamorphosis, Franz Kafka. A surreal modern classic with a claustrophobic, deadpan tone, set almost entirely indoors, where the experience is dreamlike and uncomfortable in a deliberate, controlled way. This is the short book for readers who can tolerate strangeness without needing everything explained. The writing is simple at the sentence level, but the meaning is layered. It can be read as a story about family pressure, work identity, shame, or isolation. You do not have to choose only one reading. The impact comes from how quickly it gets to the point and then stays there, forcing you to sit with the situation rather than escaping into plot. Reading tip: do not look for a single hidden key. Instead, notice what emotions the scenes create, and then ask what everyday experience those emotions resemble. That approach makes the symbolism feel practical rather than academic. This is also a useful short book if you want to expand your taste. If you mostly read straightforward narratives, Kafka can teach you to read atmosphere and implication. It is not a comfort read. It is a high-impact read that stays in your mind because it is both simple and strange at the same time. The Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway. A lean literary adventure with a calm, steady tone set on open water where the experience is focused, physical, and meditative rather than plot-heavy. This is the short book to choose when you want quiet intensity. The language is simple, the rhythm is steady, the details feel tactile. The impact comes from how much meaning is carried by effort and repetition. You are not reading for twists. You are reading for endurance, attention, and the dignity of doing a hard thing well. Hemingway is famous for understatement. He lets the surface stay plain while the emotional weight collects underneath. Reading tip: read slowly enough to feel the cadence. If you read it like a thriller, you will miss the meditative quality that makes it last. This is also a good gateway classic for people who want something adult in theme but not dense in style. It is short enough to reread later. On a second pass, different lines stand out, which is one of the best signs of a high-impact short book. If your current mood is reflective, this can feel like a reset for your attention. Coraline, Neil Gaiman. A modern dark fairy tale with a crisp, eerie tone, set in a familiar home environment that tilts into the uncanny, where the experience is tense but very readable. Coraline is often marketed as a younger book, but the craft is precise and the atmosphere works for adults too. It is short, but it feels complete because it has a clear emotional arc and a strong sense of place. The impact comes from contrast. Ordinary details become unsettling. Comfort turns into threat. The story stays clean and focused, which is why it is such a strong recommendation for readers who want something spooky, but not exhausting. Reading tip: pay attention to how Gaiman uses simple description to create mood. The sentences are not ornate. The unease builds by small, clear images. This is also a good short book for restarting a habit because it pulls you forward. You can finish it quickly, feel the satisfaction, and then decide if you want to explore more fantasy later. If you love the feeling of a slightly haunted story that is still gentle enough to read in an evening, this is one of the best short picks. The Little Prince, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. A gentle philosophical fable with a warm, clear tone set across small imagined places, where the experience is simple on the surface and quietly reflective underneath. This is the short book to choose when you want something that feels like a reset for your priorities. It is often labeled as a children's book, but it is really an all-ages book. Adults tend to read it as a mirror. Different lines land depending on where you are in life. The impact comes from how it uses plain language to talk about attachment, responsibility, and what people lose when they become too busy to notice what matters. Reading tip: read it in one sitting if you can. The book is short enough to hold as a single thought. That is part of its power. If you want a next step after a heavier short classic, this can be a gentle palate cleanser. If you want your first short classic to feel welcoming, this is a safe start. Many editions include the original illustrations, and they are part of the experience. The book is small, but it is designed to be remembered. If you collect books, this is also a rare classic that works as a gift because it is brief, non-intimidating, and complete. Many readers return to it in different decades of life, and the same pages can feel newly relevant without any homework or background reading.